The Meet Magic meetings compared to the other meetings that we have, I have thousands of meetings, literally.
And at the end of a 45-minute meeting, I've helped sick kids at the Starlights Children's Hospital, which is my chosen charity.
When you're first meeting someone, you're trying to build a connection. And with Meetings for Good, you just find the connections automatically there.
And when I actually think about what Meet Magic does and the opportunity to spend some time supporting the community of our vendors, but also being able to give back.
And when the opportunity presented itself to join Meet Magic, I jumped at it.
But these ones are different, and the reason they're different is because the vendor wants to meet with you and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
All of those meetings blur into one, but Meeting for Good is memorable.
It absolutely makes sense to do this, and I definitely recommend peers to engage with Meet Magic.
And there you have it. It's, wow, Monday already. The weekend's gone. The weekend has flown by. I don't know how your weekend was, but mine as a startup, working. I spent most of it sat on my bum, did a couple of workouts. But other than that, like any startup, you've got to keep hustling. Is that what they do? They hustle every day. But for those that don't know me, or maybe don't know, my background, I was raised in multiple council houses in the 1970s. Yeah, that's a long time ago, with my roof tiler dad and his new Jamaican wife who had 4 kids of her own. I was the only white one that grew up. So I left school at 15, left home at 16, father at 19. My name's Carl, and I'm the founder of a purpose-led platform as a service called Meet Magic. We are a platform that gives executives an opportunity to give back by doing what they do every single day at work, which is called meetings. So the Magic Room podcast really is a way for us to showcase purpose-driven leaders and change makers. And it's my way to share their story, because like me, everyone's got a story. I think the podcast theme is all about them. It's about who inspired them growing up, their mentors, their visions for the future, and how they give back now. So if you're a leader and you want to be a guest on the show, I love that word. You can find a link. I'll put a link in the podcast. It's a tool that we use called the Magic Mind Card. It's a bit of a test, really, to see if you pass, to see if you're a purpose-led leader or not, because there are a lot of people that say they are, but really they're not. So we've got some exciting podcasts coming up, including Roxanne Salton, who's the Chief Digital Officer of Southern Cross Health, about to come on. And we've got a couple of ones coming up, I think, next week or the week after, where we've got, I think, Craig Napier, the CDO, Chief Data Officer of UTS, and we're going to bring him alongside some very clever AI people that spun out of the National Broadband Network. But for now, I'm going to introduce Roxanne to the stage. How's that for an intro? Is that any good? I'm getting better at this.
It's very good. It's very smooth. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a cool little podcast.
It's my pleasure, and it's been going really well. I mean, honestly, if I'm really honest, Roxanne, it's been very difficult to get executives to listen to what we do, but the podcast really becomes this beautiful place of sharing what they do. I think what we've been doing is too much focusing on ourselves and our platform and what we do, when really we should just be focusing on you.
That's true. I mean, but you offer such a fantastic service in a sense that, you know, we get to talk to people all the time. We love talking to people. In fact, that's how we keep up with technology. That's how we connect. We understand what's out there. And the reality is that if you can do that and give back at the same time, for us, it's Cure Kids, you know, it's a win-win on all fronts. Not only do you get to meet new people, new services, new products, at the same time, you're doing a favor and you're giving back to people and charities that really need it. So it's a win-win. I think it's a fantastic product what you offer. I think more executives do it.
And we met through Brendan.
Mm.
So how do you know Brendan, Mr. Pongia?
Brendan. So I'm trying to remember now. Brendan.
Wasn't it Brendan that Cure Kids that introduced you to us, or was it? Or did we just harass you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think he probably introduced through Nick Aswick, our CEO, and then obviously then connected us and said, hey, you know, Nick and I sort of said we should share this and we should give our time back. And so both Nick and I have been doing this for quite some time.
Yes, and you know, we are very, very grateful. I think I think if I remember rightly now, I think Brendan harassed Nick.
Good. See, it paid off.
It really did. And you may not know, Roxanne, but my first time ever on an aeroplane when I was 25, I've never been out of the country before in England. So I'm English, I'm not Australian. So my first time ever, I flew all the way to Auckland, and I landed there with $300 in my pocket. And I pitched a tent in the back garden of the Mount Eden backpackers, and I stayed there for 6 months.
Wow.
I had the best time of my life. I had a cable running from the house into my tent, and I had a television in there, I had a zip and a lock and everything. And I was earning, if I remember rightly, $1,100 a week, sticking metal plates on the bottom of all the doors in the brand new casino that was being built there.
Wow, that's a lot more than what I was earning when I came to New Zealand. Because I also came here to learn English about, now it's going to be 27 years ago, or almost 28 years ago. And my first job in the backpacker was to take out these, what do you call the staples out of, poorly stapled documents. And it was with a knife and taking out the staple. And I think we earned something like $40 or $50 a day. But hey, for a backpacker, that's all you need for a couple of beers to go and party and live on to the next day. So you did pretty well, considering.
I can't tell you. I had probably, when I say that New Zealand's my spiritual home, I really do mean that. And because I think if you understand the backstory where I've come from, and really it was a reset of my life, and it was really learning to trust again was very difficult from my background. And so it became this beautiful place of resetting and peace. And so I've got this affinity now for New Zealand. I remember working on George Courts on K Road. I remember working down in Otahu at King's College. We just with amazing people. Back then as a backpacker, smoking with the Maoris on the roof and having a great time. And this was how backpackers are, and it was literally the rebirth of me. So anyway, enough about me. I'm not talking about me. But I've just popped this thing up on the screen. Vicky's just said that you've literally raised almost $5,000 through the meetings that you've done for Cure Kids through us, which is
so amazing. And I'm trying to capture a screen grab of this. I think I would like to promote that on LinkedIn as well, because I think that goes to the meetings that I could have had any day and not give back anything at the same time. So I think it's fantastic to be able to share that. And for people to see that there's a small act can give a whole lot. So really, really proud of that.
No, we're really proud to have you on board with us, because it's, I've got goose pimples, Roxanne, to be honest, because it's been, I think, trying to launch something that's very new. It's especially for execs to see, because they hear the word meeting and they go, oh no more. But it fits right in, and it fits into the work week, because most of the time, like you mentioned before, you've got to stay up to date. It's part of the role of being in digital. If you don't stay up to date, you're going to get left behind anyway. So why not have a little bit of a background? Now, let me go back to, because I know part of this is obviously about understanding where you've come from and your background, and that English language that you're speaking is really not English. I mean, it's Kiwi for a start. So,
well, it's actually français. Je parle français.
So are you? Is it? So was you raised in Canada?
Yes. So before you tell me if I'm South African, no, I'm not. I'm actually French Canadian. Je parle français. Je suis québécoise.
I did do a little bit of background.
I speak English.
Yes, but I noticed you went to university in Canada, so that was where I picked up, and I couldn't quite work out I was looking for the mix of the Kiwi. I could hear the Kiwi definitely in there. That's come through a lot.
I was born and raised in Montreal, and so I've learned French. I've learned English at school, like Kiwis would learn French at school. So I could sort of get away with a 5-minute conversation in English, but that's about it. And so when I graduated from university, like every other great travelers, I decided to go on an OE and decided that part of that should be to perfect my English. So part of my decision was twofold. Where is it summer while it's winter in the Northern Hemisphere? So automatically anything south went because, I didn't want to go anywhere north. And secondly is where could I learn a different language? And I had a choice between Bondi Beach or New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. So I had heard a lot about New Zealand, although in those days, and I'm not that old, I'm Generation X, but in those days, some maps did not have New Zealand on it. So it was a little bit of an adventure as to whether or not there was a country there or not. You could see Australia, but a lot of times when they cut the maps, they would cut or leave New Zealand out.
Oh my God.
Don't do that anymore, but it's not long ago before they used to do that in certain cheap maps, And so, so I came here to live in a Kiwi family to learn English and be fully immersed, thinking there'll be no French people around. Of course, there's all the French Polynesian, New Caledonia, Tahiti, there's lots of French around. And met a Kiwi guy. And there you go. Fell in love with the country and with a Kiwi person.
And Generation X, that means I'm a Generation X too. We are the most resilient generation.
Yes.
I'm so proud to be 54 this year. I know I shouldn't look this good at 54, but I'm so proud.
You look fabulous. I am getting to 52 this year, so there you go.
But we've got this
I still feel 35 inside.
Yes.
But I'm 52, getting to 52 in the body.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get to how you got to where you are as a chief digital officer, because where we come from our generation, we never had the internet, we never had anything like that. I used to go home when the lights came on the streets. That was when you knew it was time to go home. We were playing games with each other, which was basically get a stick and flick the dog shit at each other. That was our games. That was our enjoyment. But what our generation spawned back then in the 70s and 80s was this whole generation of leaders that were creative, because you had to be. And I sort of wonder where the next generation of creative leaders come from, because their creativity is very, very different to how it was when we were young. So tell us a little bit about your background. So tell us, first of all, what's Southern Cross Health Society? Tell me about that.
So Southern Cross Health Society is a membership organization. So we offer health insurance. We also have pet insurance, and we have travel insurance as well as life insurance. So we're in insurance, but we like to call it more assurance. We like to ensure that Kiwi can live their best and healthiest life. And so we make sure that, you can feel rest assured that you are protected should anything happen, but also we try to work a lot in the wellness space. And so the more we can prevent you from having injuries, the better we all are. So we're a not-for-profit organization. So we have a fantastic purpose. So any profit that we do make goes back to the premium and to the members. And so it's a really purpose-led organization. So we're really proud of that. And so everything we do in the minds of our members. Every dollar we spend or every dollar we invest, it is for the betterment of our membership. And so that in itself makes it a really, really cool organization to work for.
It totally is. It true that if you have a dog, you can get a discount on your health insurance?
Yes, if you have a dog and if you travel and you're part of a membership, yes, you can get some discounts out of that. The best thing you can do is go on our website or talk to some of our advisors, and they can give you all the best information that they're qualified to offer you. Because being in financial services, we've got to be careful that we give the right information from the advisors. But yeah, there's lots of great benefits that you can get from Southern Cross and being a Southern Cross member.
Yeah, someone told me once that, if you've got a dog, you can get a discount on your health insurance because you're active and you're out walking in the parks with the dog, and it's healthy, it's fresh air. And so the insurance companies actually treat that as a way that they know that you're going to be a lot healthier than somebody that doesn't have a dog, for example, because they don't necessarily go out walking their dog. So how did you get to be with Southern Cross? At what point? What led you to Southern Cross?
That's a good question, actually, because naturally my background is not necessarily in technology, but I've been working alongside technology all my life. I've been always fascinated with technology. And so when I came across Southern Cross, I was actually having a conversation around, what is the next step? What am I doing? Because I was at the time with Mercury Energy, and I was looking after digital transformation, and I had the chance and the opportunity to look after the IT department for about 7 months. And I really enjoyed the great association between the sales and the commerciality of where I was in the transformation and digital, to then being able to have the hands on the tools and be able to build it as well as selling it and shipping it if you want. So for me, there's a great synergy between marrying up those commercial and technology people together to form what I call a really great digital environment. And so for me, I really was enjoying that time. And it's at the time that I was offered an opportunity to come and talk to Southern Cross about this role particularly. And of course, the purpose of the company, the fact that it was in technology, but having the realm of being able to look after the whole digital environment was really, really attractive to me. Southern Cross is very digital by nature. We've got a very digitized operation. So we were able to take it to the next step and really evolve it into a modern infrastructure. Modernize our technology, modernize our capabilities and our skills, and our people as well. So I think that was lacking a little bit. It was lots of great technology decisions, but probably not quite fit yet for purpose for the future. So it was a really cool challenge, a really great opportunity, and bring a bit of that sort of commercial conversation at the table, not just tech for tech's sake, but actually understanding that technology plays a really important role now at the table in terms of its spin and also in terms of its influence across all departments of the business. So how do we make sure that when we talk about technology, we all understand it? So for me, that next step was great. And of course, I got the opportunity offered to me to take on this role, and I absolutely love it. I've been there for 4 years now. And absolutely love it. Love tech. Love looking after tech and tech people.
I can tell. I mean, it's in your energy. You're completely, and for me, that's the same. I think there's something about the fact that we've grown up with it and watched everything evolve from nothing. Yeah. So, from watching those people getting shouted at down the street because they were walking with the first mobile phones. Remember, there was the yuppies, they used to call them in England, and they'd get shouted at. You drive past them and call them up because they had the first phones, or those people that had the big ones in the car.
I had the one. When I was at Yellow Pages, because my first role in New Zealand I was a sales rep for Yellow Pages, and I can tell you that we had the Sony Ericsson, and you had to open them up and pull the yellow antenna out, and it was green numbers, and you dial them. But the battery was so big that when you talked about it and thought you looked really, really cool, sometimes the battery would fall out. So, it was the start of a coolness that eventually Apple and Google and everybody else sort of brought on board. But I've always been fascinated with that geek side of liking new tools and tech and being able to take things forward, and be more productive and efficient with those things. So, and it doesn't always work. I've worked on programs of work that went nowhere. But I still love every new tech that comes out and looking at it and go, well, what problem or what opportunity can that solve?
Was there something that influenced you along the way? I remember talking to Simon Reuter. Simon Reuter, is it Reuter or Reuter?
Simon Reuter.
Yeah, Simon's the chief technology officer for. He was at Aware Super. He's now at another one. But he was telling me when he was growing. Do you know him?
No. I think you're talking about somebody different. Simon Reuter is the CEO of Spark, but you must be talking about another person.
Yeah, he's the chief. We had him on the podcast, and he was telling me that he got inspired by. I think he was watching Star Trek or something growing up as a kid. Is there anything that stands out from you being young that influenced you being involved in tech?
It's a really interesting question, and I can't put a finger on it because I could honestly tell you I would have, if you asked me 15 years ago if I would have ever thought I'd be chief technology officer, I would have laughed it out and thought, no way. And for some reason, I think when I started looking at you know, the days when we moved away from the jet stream and, you know, the sort of the old internet before broadband, you know,
Dial-up.
you couldn't do dial-up. That's right. Can't even remember the name now. And I really started to enjoy, when I started creating websites, but I was creating products in tech, you know. So I remembered ACP Media. We were doing advertising, and I had this really cool idea of getting this new Ford truck, which was an ad that we'd put over the page, and you had the Ford truck coming in and crushing the whole. It looked like it was crushing the homepage, and then suddenly people go, oh, "What's happening to the website?" And it was just an ad for Ford, and it was the F-250, and it was, you know, tough as nails, and it would just crush the page and then leave, and then the page would come back. And I just thought the creative space that you could have, you could sort of create something very different that you could then resell, that was actually accessible by most people, and that you could actually foresee a future in it. And I think that's where I started to really enjoy technology and the possibilities in the role that I was, which was in sales. I was selling advertising, I was creating products. So I was utilizing technology as an enabler, not as something that I was going to build myself. And so that's where my sort of energy and excitement around what technology could do. And every time it evolved to be more and more and more. And every time you go, well, what else could I create with that? So it's more for me around what can you do with technology that then solves big problem. And the more I moved into digital transformation and strategy and started looking at bigger issues, like, you know, when I worked in energy and we had movement of the environment, could you use technology to project a boulder about to come down on the station, right? Starting to think about real world application. So that's where my passion for tech came in. And of course, to be able to then look after that and create the tech as well as selling it, then wow, it's a perfect marriage. So I'm a little bit different than it's not the coding. Although I did code a Lemonade program in DOS a long time ago.
I don't think we need to do that anymore. Yeah. I think AI is going to change all that, right? I think my understanding of where tech's going to go, and you probably got a similar one, is that we're all going to be orchestrators. You won't need anything. You'll have a little AI running off doing your cybersecurity, a little AI running off doing this, and you'll basically be the conductor. You'll orchestrate them. I think it's going to go somewhere like that. It's not that far off, I think, when you think about what's happening with AI, which is right now, it's probably one of the biggest things that every company is trying to understand. How are we going to adopt this? We just don't know. You know, I know, for example, in Australia, there's lots of government departments that don't have any budget for this. They don't have any way of actually testing what it is and how it's going to play into their business. So we're now on our application on Meet Magic app, we've now got an ability to actually invite those AI companies to come and do a demo or do a pilot. So you can do that for free through the platform. So at least the government organizations can test and have a look at what it's going to look like, you know, and maybe get some idea about how much it's going to cost to help build the business case. So at least then you can go and then internally go and have those conversations about what you're going to do with it. But I think as we start going down this path, it's really fascinating to see that there's a lot of people spinning up on the sides. Some of them are coming up in the education space, which I find that the AI education space to adopt AI really fascinating, because like you've got all this intellectual capital that's sitting inside a company. Why would you let that go to replace it with AI when you can actually train it to actually go and leverage all the knowledge in the brain and then use AI on top of that? That's really powerful.
Yeah, it's an interesting. We're having great conversation about Gen AI and AI at the moment, and you know where this is all going to go, and it's quite interesting because you know in the consumer space we've all run away with utilizing ChatGPT, Bard, and all that, and you know the consumers have already taken up the tool set that the large language models can offer us. I mean, literally, you're talking to a machine that like you would to your friend or to your parent or your partner, and it returns results in an amazing format. Even, I know my son's 20 and I was helping him the other day in creating a CV. And as soon as he used it, and I thought, come on, it's your generation. You should be using it before I tell you. And he felt like he was cheating. He's like, this is cheating. I said, no, this is the future. But the reality is, as businesses, we need to really understand the power of it. What does it mean? Because now we're tapping into a very different territory than machine learning, where you have more control, you're improving it, you're part of the development of that code. Gen AI is fairly different, but it can probably have application for much bigger or different problems. We're just not sure which ones yet. And so I think playing with it and understanding it is definitely going to be the first thing, the first step. Don't sit on it and wait. But then how do we do this responsibly? How do we do this in a way that our models are not going to give answers to our members that are not correct? How do we monitor and supervise that? There's a lot of question. I always say it's never technology the issue. It's everything surrounding it. Usually tech works. If I look at the self-driving cars, we know they work. We know they can be out in the wild and they can absolutely drive. The problem is every other driver around those cars and how the car will react when it has to make a decision, and then who makes the call on what decision the car makes and therefore owns that liability. So a lot of times it's not the tech. It's what we need to do around it to make sure that it is safe and it does the right thing. And sometimes it doesn't quite replace the decision of a human. So there's going to be a space where we're going to have to work alongside it. But I was watching a program this morning on humanoids, and I thought, yeah, we're not there yet. Robots, they're there, but we're not quite there yet. I think they still look a little bit creepy, but they have really good uses, especially in factory and so forth. But
yeah,
put Gen AI on a robot and start. I don't know. It's going faster than we can think of.
It's coming. The rate of doubling and the way it's fast, how fast it's changing so quickly is kind of incredible. And that's why I say you've got to stay on top of these vendors and keep meeting with them, because there's so many new ways it's being adopted. Have you got any visions? I mean, you talk about the future there. I often think about these self-driving cars and what human behavior are like. Humans are humans, and so
and we're very complex and difficult.
But what they do is, these self-driving cars, they've all got these abilities to sort of self-regulate and turn whenever they want to. But you know what humans are like? They're just like to have fun. For example, in Australia, in Sydney here, when all those bikes came up on the streets, the self-riding bikes that you can scan and ride the bikes, they all ended up in the river and in the sea because the people got drunk and threw them in the just ridiculous behavior. But you can almost imagine if the street becomes full of self-driving cars, people will start throwing traffic cones to put them off, and all of a sudden you're going to have chaos. So
that's right. There was a great video of this a few years back, and I remember seeing that, and I thought, and there's the problem with self-driving cars. At the time, what I don't like is when a new technology comes out like this, everybody runs around with it and go, "This is the future." And you go, "Well, step back for a second and ask the second, the third, and the fourth question." Because you got to look at what does it look like in life, right? And that's exactly right. The car could do the job, but because the car was all sort of programmed for safety, as soon as it got to an intersection and someone walked in front of that car, the car had to stop. And of course, because people are not very patient at the intersection, they wouldn't wait for the car to re-engage. So another person would go in front of the car and another person, and then suddenly everybody realized this car's stuck. So everybody started crossing the road and forgetting about the car. The car was stuck in the middle of the road, created a massive traffic block. And suddenly and there lies the problem. Unless we change every single car to self-driving in one instant, we're not going to solve this problem. As long as people still are interfering with it, it's not going to work. So unless we find another way, and humans, we're not good at doing what we're told. So we're very different than robots.
Well, I mean, we kind of don't do what we say we believe as well. We tend to do what's convenient and then repent. And I find that kind of interesting, because I think Rory Sutherland, who is the vice chairman of Ogilvy in the UK, is the #1 advertising man on the planet. He's also the Meat Magic's chief evangelist. So we've managed to get Rory on board our team, and we're getting him to help us understand the human behavior around meetings and how we can transform that and change perception. Because I think you can change the perception with a little bit of with words, right? You can, for example, I don't know, you can change a couple of words on a wrapper, and it will actually change the taste of that product for people. Because I think you mentioned something. Yeah, it's really. I think there was something happened with Cadbury's where they changed the words or the color, something very basic, but what that did was it changed the actual taste of the chocolate for people, which is kind of weird. I think the human mind doesn't run on logic any more than a horse runs on petrol. But you're right. There's some amazing things. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this whole AI thing when it comes out. Listen, I think this podcast.
The thing is, for good and for bad, because when we were talking about education before, the unfortunate thing is, I mean, and I've got a 19 and 21-year-old, so I've seen them as this generation entering the workforce. But the reality is that they are so bombarded with misinformation that we almost need to, like you and I were talking about before on the Generation X, go back to first principle when we didn't have the internet and we had to research and we had to form an opinion, right? And that opinion became our own truth. So I think our kids are so bombarded with information that somewhere in school we need to teach them how to, not what 2 + 2 is, but how to decipher the information that they're getting and make a choice and go back almost to the scientific evidence, to then make the right decision. Because I think, especially with deep fakes and all that, who do you believe in this world, right? So it becomes a task. And I just look at the next generation and I go, my God, how are they going to make decisions if they're never sure that the information in front of them is accurate? How many sources of information do they need to go and get, and who do they trust? Yeah. If because the media is not necessarily a good trusting source either. So how do we get great information for our own businesses and for our people to be able to buy something, And it changes the whole landscape of how we create products and services as well. Because if you look at the amount of scam out there of people utilizing your customer service to present a scam, saying, "Oh, you didn't pay your toll, or you didn't, you're missing something from the bank. Call us." With AI, it's becoming so clever, and people are getting so much better at it that you almost, as a person trying to sell your product, how do you reach your customer and they believe you? I just think I think there's a step back here that we're going to need to really reinforce, and maybe that's us as Generation X, because we've been on both sides of the equation to so hang on, don't believe everything you're reading. Here's what you need to do, and go and have pros and cons on both sides and then form an opinion, because it's going to be a difficult future, regardless to, if we don't put time into this.
I don't sit down and watch much television, but on the weekend I did. I sat down and I watched a bit of Netflix, or as you call it in Australia, in New Zealand, Netflix. And I watched this one called Bitcoin. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's about all the rise of the Bitcoins. Do you remember a couple of years, I think it's 2018, when they just popped off and there was all these coins popping up. And there was one particular one.
In fact, I was in banking then. I was at ASB Bank then. So it was very interesting at the time.
Was you working with Michael Hart?
Nope, not that I remember. Okay. Which part was he in? Was he in digital or?
Yeah, I think he was a CIO or something. He ended up being CIO of the Commonwealth Bank here.
Oh, right, okay.
And he's a good mate of mine. He's now he bought an island in Italy, and he ended up being the CIO of Barclays. And then he became the chief operating officer of Santander. And I think now he's investing in stuff. But this Bitcoin story was all about the influences that influenced the rise of this particular coin. And all these people just started putting their money and investing into it, lost everything. But these people that made all this money, they then went to Floyd Mayweather, the boxer, and they gave him $200,000 to actually endorse it. Then they gave DJ Khaled some more money to endorse it. So all of a sudden, you've got these two very powerful influencers endorsing this, which made it spur even more. And it was all a scam.
I know. And that's what I mean. The power of the speed of information and the power of saying something that actually then promotes the scam even more is phenomenal.
It was really scary. I've got a 21-year-old girl. She's at uni now in her 4th year. and she's doing a study on safety in the metaverse. And I think, you know, we've all got to start thinking about this now, because there's a lot of people already there playing games in the metaverse. They're already in their digital worlds doing that sort of stuff.
Well,
So,
you know, it's
I don't
not very different than what we used to call Second Life. So,
yeah, I was there. I joined.
I always
that
say
as
to
well.
my kids, "You've invented nothing. We were already there before you." It just didn't look like that. But, you know, you've invented nothing. You know, I always get, oh, but in your olden days, I'm like, well, hang on a second. Let me tell you, you've invented nothing.
And let's be fair. And let's be fair, Roxanne. All the music they're listening to is all our music that's just been reinvented.
Exactly. So are we taking away their creativity? I don't know, but yeah. No, yeah.
We got a comment here from Vicky. Vicky's my head of. You probably met Vicky. You probably know Vicky. Vicky's head of customer experience down in Melbourne. She said here that your career is so fascinating. As a woman in tech leader, I'd love to know what has been your biggest challenge in your career to date, and do you see the industry evolving with more women reaching these key senior roles?
That's a really good question, Vicky. So look, I've never had an issue being a female in a tech industry, because I have to tell you, I was a female in finance, and then I was a female in energy, and then a female in media. So, but on the classified side, not the glossy magazine side. So every single role I've had, I was always in a men driven industry. So I think I came across more challenges when I was in publishing, you know, and that was more early in my career, where, you know, having kids and being a senior manager was, you know, not something that you wouldn't get a comment out of, but certainly not lately. And I certainly would not stand for that. But I think there's a lot more women coming into technology, which I think is because coding is not the only role in technology anymore. When we start looking at digital experiences, and we start looking at the data, we start looking at you know, the ways of working with squads and business analyst and product owner, it's opened up the door to so many more people and so much more capability that, you know, it's opened up the door for women as well wanting to do roles, because, you know, sometimes women, we don't necessarily, and I mean, that's my own personal view, we don't necessarily love doing everything, you know, so, you know, some women will have different traits than others, in men, and in different genders and so forth. So, you know, I think if you don't like coding and that's all that technology offered in the past, then obviously, you know, you're not going to be interested. But today we have such an array of roles. A lot of my people in tech come from customer service. I have this fantastic story with one of my people who used to work in the member services team, and she was fantastic. She was growing, but she never thought she could buy a house, because, you know, in customer service, it's usually lower salaries. You know, the prospect for growth are much smaller. And so she'd decided herself that she would never buy a house, and she had given up that dream. And then one day she had an opportunity to move into the digital team and come in and do a product owner role, which she had all the qualification for, and had the subject matter expertise knowledge for the program of work we were looking at, which was one of their technologies. I sat down with her about a year ago, and she sat down with me and she said, "Roxanne, I just bought my first home." She said, "The salaries I got in technology, I never thought I would ever own a home, and now I have my first home." Wow. And so she's a great advocate to other women and other people, because it's not just women, to come into the technology space, because the opportunities are absolutely amazing. So I'm a big advocate to support these sorts of jump from different industries into the tech space. And giving it a go. It's not just coding. And in fact, coding becomes much easier now, especially with Gen AI, which, you know, if you do any Copilot on GitHub or anything like that, actually coding is becoming easier and easier. You can automate it. You can pre-create it. There's much more standardization of it. So, you know, I think there's massive amount of opportunity. And certainly, yes, we are still at the exec table, you know, probably not equal yet, but that's something that we need to push out for. We need to bring the talent at the bottom level and grow it into that role, or else, you know, it's slim pickings. So I think that's probably, for me, my big passion is to lift that up. I think the challenge for CDOs at the moment, which tend to be maybe, and again, I don't even know the stats. I'm not gonna make a rough number, but I think the aspect of the role from CIO to CDO is also, there's a bit of different connotation to it, where the CDO is probably broader in terms of skill set, more sort of experience, digitally experiences, as well as technology, where CIO is what we see sometimes as being a bit more traditional. So you've grown in IT and you've sort of become and made a career in IT. I think it depends on the businesses, what they think they need. Do they need more of a technical person leading, or do they need more of a broader skill set to lead? So I think there's changes happening between CIOs and CDOs. But again, that opened up more doors for females to come in and actually play a role in that. And I think that's a good thing.
I think you should take your hat off and pat yourself on the back, because you've changed a life, literally changed a life. The fact that you've given somebody an opportunity and they've taken it and run with it and actually created a brand new house for themselves. You should feel so proud of that, because that for me is.
Yeah, I'm a people leader, and I just love and cherish those stories, because I always think, we've been surrounded with people over time, especially when you get to 52, we've had people friends of ours passing over time, because, you reach a certain age and sometimes you lose a bit and then you continue on. And, it's quite amazing when you're watching friends of yours facing death and you go, what really matters at the end? Is it what your title, where you live, or how big your house was, or actually what matters is the difference you've actually made to people and what you leave behind. And I think for me, that's really what inspired me. And actually my mother-in-law was probably one of the ones who inspired me the most when she was passing with cancer, because the people who came and saw her didn't care what she'd done in her life, but it was the one thing she said to them that changed something in their life. And I thought, if I leave this planet, I want people at my funeral to talk about what I've said to them that maybe changed or made a difference, not about anything else, So that's probably, my big self-motivator is, what can I give back that will make a difference well beyond me, So the role is the role it's today, but the difference is who you lift up and help. And that's why I love Meet Magic, because it gives me the opportunity to do both, where you get to do your job and you get to learn about the business, but you're also doing something different to lift something else up. And I think for me, that speaks to my values. So, if I can do that more, I will.
You're making me cold. You're giving me goose pimples. It's this
good.
Honestly, Roxanne, I can't.
Out half of New Zealand.
I can't thank you enough for being a supporter of ours, and it literally does mean the world to us. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our clients. I don't know if you've actually met Alteryx, but they're in the data space. Very cool tech company. I think they're about to be bought by somebody, but whatever you do with your customer data, Alteryx help you get rid of all the spreadsheets and do a lot of clever stuff with them. So I just want to say a big shout out to them and to Catherine for being a big supporter of ours and all the Alteryx team. They've been with us since day one almost that we started this thing. And people like yourself, Roxanne, I can't honestly, when leaders like you step into this and do something and just say, yes, I'll give it a crack. I sometimes sit back in my chair, that one there, and I punch the sky and I just go, yes, because it's literally been one brick at a time, one exec at a time for the past 4 years that we've had to try and grow this. And we've been told no so many times. I mean, I don't know how we get people to say yes all the time, but it's been literally like building a brick wall one at a time. And then we've turned around and 4 years later, we've now got 1,000 execs in 5 countries on a platform. And it takes persistence. It takes all that Generation X resilience, because if you haven't got that, you're going to give up. And so people like, when you come along, I can't tell you what it means to me and the team, that it lifts us all up when we get people like you saying yes. One of the hardest things that we're facing at the moment is getting time in diaries, because there's so much noise out there in the market. There's so many a lot of the vendors are really harassing the execs. It's like wild. And they chase these execs on email, on LinkedIn, on SMS, on WhatsApp, even on Facebook and Twitter. They're chasing them to try and get time in the diary. And we've heard some horror stories. I mean, we heard a story on a podcast the other week where the exec said, "Oh, I had one salesperson call me and he said I'm currently in the hospital with my child, to try and get some empathy to get a meeting." It's like, what are you doing?
Look, I can see both sides. I was a sales rep for 20 years, and the amount of times that you have to do cold calling, I just see the feeling, and I try to remember what it was like when I was cold calling, when they cold called you, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that I don't know what the answer is for these guys, but email is definitely not the go. And I don't know why they keep using email, because you get so many emails. Your EA clears your email anyways, and they know if it's .com, it's got not, like we're never going to see them.
Yeah.
But then calling you, there's so much spam we're getting. I just hung up 3 calls from the US. I know they're just spam calls. And so you just, you sort of go, unless they have a contact in that they can sell to, I don't know how better they can actually get to us. And it's a tough one. And I still think face-to-face still counts for a lot. If they're prepared to come in and actually have a step in, especially for us in New Zealand, we're so small. It makes a difference for us when a company takes the time to come and see us in New Zealand, because we have more chances of thinking if they took the chance and the time to come in to us, then they should get a hearing, because it makes a difference than just calling it in. After that, you can have those meetings, online, but that face-to-face, especially after COVID, counts for a lot.
It's actually really interesting, because Rory talks a lot about the signaling and the commitment to the signaling. So it's, if somebody's prepared to pay money through Meet Magic to have a conversation with you, it's a commitment to this. It's a costly signal that they're prepared. They've got something interesting and valuable that they want to share with you. So it's likely that it's going to be valuable to you. And he says things like, if only email costs $10 to send, then every email you receive would be worth reading. Because people wouldn't be sending them because they cost $10 to send. It's the same with these meetings. If someone's prepared to fly to New Zealand to come and meet with you, it's a signal of the commitment to the relationship. And so it's really powerful. And the good thing about video is it obviously reduces travel and time and everything else. But I agree with you, face to face. And we've got on the platform, we've built that in so you can take me to lunch options. You've got take me to coffee options in there as well. So I'm a big fan. Listen, I'm going to cut this podcast. It's been now almost an hour. We could probably gas bag for another hour or so.
I know.
But I'm conscious of your time. It's 7 p.m. where you are almost. I've got 5 little Socratic questions.
Oh, go for it. I'm fine.
Okay. These are. There's no right or wrong answer. First thing that comes to your mind. Say something in an Asian language.
Konnichiwa.
Oh, very good. Do you respect Kanye West?
No.
Nickname your first boyfriend called you.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I've just got something in my throat.
Of course you did. A nickname your first boyfriend called you.
Oh gosh. Usually it's Roxy.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
Oh, actually, Foxy. I'll take Foxy.
Foxy Roxy.
Yeah.
You know what? I can call you that because you're a Gen X. But if you called probably a Generation Z, that probably get it.
Yeah, mind you, mine would have been in French anyway, so it wouldn't make any difference to anybody else unless you speak French.
and here's finally, as a tech one, Salesforce or HubSpot?
Ooh, I got 2 of those out of 3. So I can't choose. I've got 2 that we're already using. So excuse me, Tech One and HubSpot.
Okay. We're a Salesforce user at the moment, which I think is
they've had a few goes at me over the years, but I haven't installed Salesforce yet.
Yeah, I've done
SAP and I've done
It's great tech. It's great tech. I think if you've got some people that can run it and use it, it does its job. Like anything else, you need to invest some time into it and stuff. But Roxanne, thank you very much for being on on our podcast. This honestly, it means the world to us what you've done, and almost $5,000 to Cure Kids is nuts. So Brendan and the Cure Kids team, you know, I know they're very, very grateful for this. Vicky and my team are all very, very grateful for your support. And if there's anything we can do to make your journey better, let us know.
And look, it's almost a return back to you, Carl. Is anything I can do to help bring more exec online? You've got a fantastic 1,000 now. Imagine what you could do with 1,000 exec, just being able to collaborate with each other as well within your platform. That would be amazing. So, you know, we all have to work together. The world is a large place, but it's not that large, you know. We all very similar. So I will keep promoting your services. I think it's a fantastic service. You've got me, so I'm not going anywhere. So send them to me, and we will schedule them in because, you know, it's a great cause.
You're
you know,
amazing.
and it's good for the platform. So anything I can do to support it, I will.
Thank you so much. You know what's just occurred to me is you've gone through this journey of being in sales to where you are today in this chief digital role. And that distance traveled is a big amount of distance. It's huge. And what you've actually done for that person changing roles and coming into tech to be able to buy a house, you've given her the same thing. And it's just occurred to me that because you've walked that walk, you're giving other people the chance to take that walk as well. Yeah. That for me is what life's all about. And you should sleep very well tonight.
Thank you for that. Look, like I said, I'm always going to promote other opportunity to grow talent in New Zealand or anywhere else. You know, grow your own. There's so much talent already there. There's no need to necessarily go overseas all the time. It's just you need to keep your eyes open and just provide opportunities and pathways for them to switch over. There is so much more talent to be had. We just need to make sure they know about it.
You're a great human being, Roxanne. Thank you so much for being here with us. We'll
Thank
post
you
it
so
all
much.
on our. Did you manage to take a screenshot of that other one that Vicky of that $5,000? Let me see if I can find it.
Let me just have a quick look. Let's take another one because my face is looking a bit funny. All right, let's leave it there and let's have a great smile. I'm going to grab a screenshot.
Oh, there.
Did I get it? Hang on. In 1, 2, 3, go. All right, and now I'm going to keep it.
Did you get it?
And we are good. We got a great one. So I'll be sure to post it on LinkedIn and push it out as well and get more people to come and join you. Let me know how best they can contact you because I think the more I can push out, the better it is for everyone's charities and for Meet Magic.
You're a beautiful human being, Roxanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carl. I really enjoyed it. It was great.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.